This is ridiculous.
The Truth Network.
Right now. Ooh. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it. Hit it.
It's time for Mac's World.
And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
All right, now listen up.
Exclusively on The Truth Network, 99.3, The Truth FM.
All right, 6 minutes after the hour, 4th day of May in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. We are joined now by Congressman Steve King. Steve, we appreciate you being here. Phone lines are open if you'd like to ask Steve a question. We're going to focus on a couple things. We only have Steve for a short period of time. Number one, thank you for everything you do. You know I'm a big supporter of yours, and I give you heck when you do something wrong.
It's a privilege to do this job and to have the people to represent that I do. I'm happy to be in the studio with you, Mac.
Yeah, have you and Terry made love again?
Well, we haven't had a long, extended conversation in a while, but communications are starting to go back and forth a little more fluidly.
Good, because you guys make a good team for Iowa. You really do.
Yeah. And I wonder sometimes who loves Iowa most. I'd put Chuck Grassley in there along with Terry Branstad.
Absolutely.
Those two fellows would be the ones that are competing the most. They've been at it the longest and demonstrated it the best.
You know what we need to do? We need to go out to I'm serious about this. We need to go out to Saylorville, and we need to put Steve King, Terry Branstad, and Grassley's face in the rocks, like a mini Mount Rushmore. I think that'd be good. All right.
Can I throw something in here? I always, I occasionally tease Governor Branstad that he put me in a condition where I had to learn how to do underwater grading at Saylorville Reservoir. We were doing a boat ramp in deep water, and the governor ordered that the water level of Saylorville would be raised in anticipation of the impending drought. And so the only way I could do that was to set a laser up and grade it underwater, and it made us better. So
there you go. All right, I don't know how much you want to comment on this. I don't want to put you in a difficult position. But your primary challenger, Bertrand, comes from Sioux City?
Yes.
Okay. I understand that, and you've always been the guy that will not bend to special interests. Mm-hmm. And I hope the people of Iowa show you that appreciation. I do.
And political correctness.
And political correctness. Mm-hmm. I've heard this Bertrand is like the 7th or 8th candidate that the special interest money group tried to put up against you. And most people said, I'm not running against Steve King. I don't have any doubt that that's true. In fact, I could name from memory 7 that were offered support if they would just run against me. And this began right after the Iowa caucus, within that week. And I started getting calls from people that said they want to recruit me to run against you. And here's what they've offered for our campaign. Here's what they've offered to spend in Super PAC money. And you don't have to worry if you will take this on and announce, because we'll see to it that a huge amount of money is dumped into your campaign the first week, and we'll match that the second week. And we've got a big budget and millions of dollars for a Super PAC that we'll use to do a scorched earth policy against King. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to spend any of the money in your campaign going negative. You can be all sweetness and nice, and you'll never get your hands dirty. This is what they're telling these 7, 8, 9 potential.
7 others.
All right.
Yes. Now, I think the bid went down as they went down the list. I don't know that that their first offer was sustained all the way down. But so Bertrand has said, well, there was no offer. But it turns out the people making the offer are, one of them is running Super PAC ads against me now, and the other one is his finance chair.
Mm. All right. So obviously we never take a challenger lightly, but I'm assuming, I don't want to assume, but you're focused on November, which is the main election. And who is your challenger there? Do we know?
Yes, the one Democrat that's filed and has to technically get through this primary, but without an opponent. Her name is Kim Weaver, and she comes from up at Sheldon, right in the heart of the most Republican region that I know of. And that's a little bit that I know about her. She came out with a 3 or so minute ad off a teleprompter, and in that she attacked Republicans. So if you come from the middle of a Republican area and you start out running for office in a general election and you attack Republicans in the first 3 minutes, that's probably not going to go so well for you.
You've got to sit back sometimes and look at some of these challengers. Like I listen to a high school radio and say, gee, it's really nice they want to do this, but they got to learn some things first. You don't just jump off the hay wagon and start bailing.
Well, yeah, that's a way to put it, Mac. This is a complex field in politics, and there's people go to school and get a degree in political science, and they sit down and they'll tell me about that, and I often tell them, you realize it's not a science, don't you?
Yeah, right.
And there are no two data points that can be extrapolated into a third data point. You can't lay the ruler on them and say it predicts the future. There are so many variables, and to the extent you can understand them and the extent you can affect the inputs into that is the extent that you can be successful. So it's a very complex thing, and in the end, there are smart people in all fields, and a lot of smart people go to Washington, D.C., but the things that separate the really smart people with good work ethic and good values and all with others are, I think it's good instincts, knowing when it's time to move, knowing when it's time not to move.
Yeah.
And you're born with instincts, but you have to develop them, then you have to learn to trust them, and that is a separating factor in this business.
Are instincts like talent? And you're born with them, but you have to develop the skills to be able to properly implement those talents.
Well, the first thing on instincts is to know when to trust them.
Okay.
And if you can quickly trigger on something and just go, I know this is right, and you move on it immediately, you're ahead of the game. You created the inertia and you've created the dialogue. There's not time in this business often to go back and do the polls, put your finger on the pulse, and figure out what to do.
Isn't your first instinct usually the best and the most correct in generally?
I think so. And, I think of a time that I was looking at buying some land in southern Iowa that I was going to team up with a really good farmer in my neighborhood, and we were going to go down and clear it out and open it up so that we could get some production out of it. All the penciling that we did the night before worked out, and we got a room down there and woke up in the morning, and I thought we had a deal when I went to bed. In the morning, he said, no, I'm not doing it. And, but the numbers haven't changed overnight. Why not? He said, my guts are telling me it's wrong. My guts. That guy today now is a multi-millionaire because he tracked his instincts. And that's one of the first times I learned that. There have been many other times since then.
Steve King is our guest today. The question is, you are a big Ted Cruz fan. Mm-hmm. You endorsed him. You worked hard for him. Were you surprised when he got out of the race last night?
Yes, I was, Mac. And
I was too.
Yeah, it came sooner than I thought it would. I saw a path yet that I thought that he would continue to follow. The delegate recruitment along the way within the states was going terrific for the Cruz campaign. And there are states out there that if this were carried to a second or a subsequent ballot, would have seen the votes that were cast on the automatic ballot, as much as tripled or more for Cruz on a second or third ballot.
So why? I mean, do we know? I don't want you to give up secrets, obviously, or friendships, but it just blew me away because I thought that man would hang around till we got to convention just to see if somebody tripped up. Plus, we don't know what Donald's going to say or do between now and convention.
That's another point. I think that the inertia of that campaign, and then finally, he said that if he didn't see a viable path, that he wouldn't continue. And he's kept his word on that. And so when he came to a conclusion, and I think he made that announcement within minutes of the actual conclusion.
What do you think about the possibility that Cruz could end up on the Supreme Court as a nominee put forth by Trump?
Well, I can never see I have no insight into Trump's decisions. I'm surprised by them a lot more than I am Ted Cruz's. As I think what the anomaly here is that we are surprised by a Cruz decision, and all throughout the campaign we've been surprised by Donald Trump. But I think if you're a potential President Donald Trump, and you're looking at Ted Cruz in the Senate that is going to be driving an agenda protecting the Constitution, restoring the rule of law, doing that, you'd either want to know he's your ally or you might want to put him on the Supreme Court.
Or
and
VP.
That's another... But we've seen a lot of acrimony here, and there's 2.5 months to go before that decision absolutely has to be made. So perhaps that can tone itself down. But this is they've locked horns pretty hard, and it'd be tough to reconcile some of those statements that Trump has made.
But You probably can tell me where there are hard feelings among people who ran against each other, and we just don't see them in the public, and I'm glad we don't. But I just don't see Ted Cruz and Donald Trump are both very special people in their own way. I think they could both come together and unify for something that would be as important as running this country. And Cruz would be in charge of the Senate.
True, and it is extraordinarily important. And as I've watched Ted Cruz, I mean, you just think of weeks on the bus together, going from town to town to town in Iowa and South Carolina and on. When things happen like that, I have a longer memory when things like that take place. Cruz, I don't think he's got a vindictive bone in his body.
Okay.
It's easier for him to forgive than most anybody I can think of in an arena like that.
Because wouldn't it be really, I'm not a politician, I'm a journalist, but I think it would be really ignorant of Donald Trump to not recognize the coalition that Ted Cruz has behind him and how that can benefit him.
And that is a strong coalition, of full spectrum constitutional Christian conservatives. That's the group of people that are most likely to stay home these days. They're the people that stayed home on Mitt Romney and the reason he's not president by many accounts, including mine. So I think it's important to reach out to that group.
I think there's a pretty good share of those people he ran against maybe in his cabinet or in his administration. But Trump said recently that he would put forth a list of about a dozen candidates that he would seriously only draw from for the Supreme Court. If those candidates met your criteria, would you be full on board and encourage all other Republicans to get full on board with Trump?
Yeah, that would be something that would be very interesting to me and very tempting. I'd want to see the scenario before I'd give a real answer on this, and I don't want to suggest that I'm going to be part of I don't plan on being part of a Never Trump group. But I think that Trump needs to be the person who does the outreach and that starts to pull this party together. He is the one that's hurled the accusations and the insults out. He's the one that has to figure out how to reel them back in and how to offer the olive branch to the party. But if he does that, I think there will be a level of forgiveness that takes place, and a list like that would be very helpful. One of the first things I would do is I would put that list in front of Ted Cruz because I trust his judgment more than any other on appointments to our federal bench.
All right, 515-244-0077. We're going to have the congressman for about another 12 minutes. During that time, if you'd like to call up and ask him a question about his candidacy, about what's going on in his district, his competitor on the primary side is blaming him for Highway 20 not being finished. We'll talk about some of those things and more. And later, Pastor Todd Stiles on the killing of his missionary in Jamaica.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage! Yeah!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
21 minutes after 4 o'clock, 4:21 on the 4th day of May in the Lord's year 2016. Congressman Steve King in the studio. It's your chance to ask him some questions at 515-244-0077. Now, the guy that's about to talk to you, Congressman, is named Army Brad. And Brad, very good brother of mine in Christ. Army Brad served the Army for many years, retired. I have made him Secretary of Defense in Mac's world, and I made him a 7-star general. So you're talking to almost royalty here, and I know he's a big fan of yours. So Brad, come on, and what question do you have for Senator King?
Well, after that intro, I don't know what to say.
Just say thank you.
I'm going to call you sir, and I'm outranked by a few stars here.
Sir, I worked for a living. I know officers get mad when the NCOs say that, but yeah, I retired as a master sergeant, so don't have to call me sir ever.
Well, it's good to talk to you, Sergeant, and Secretary of Defense.
Right.
Mr. Secretarial work.
Well, I was just wondering if you had watched Donald Trump's speech last night, and didn't you think that was a pretty open, at least my mind, olive branch to Senator Cruz, praising him on how hard he fought and everything else?
The pieces that I saw, I didn't see the whole speech, but I did see a clip or two that were really short, and then I heard some commentary that would be consistent with what you've just said. Yes, I would agree.
Because I think Trump, as soon as that battle was over, and I think we can all agree that Governor Kasich hadn't really been a threat, even winning Ohio, but with that threat gone, it appeared to me that Mr. Trump was instantly going into trying to put the party back together, and I think all these are a majority of the people that are saying anybody but Trump today are actually going to fall in line and do what's probably best for our country. At least I hope that's what they do.
Well, we need to get there somehow together, and I want to put some of the responsibility on Donald Trump, though. And as I say, I don't think that I need to come with my hat in my hand. I've conducted myself, and nobody's asking me to do that, I recognize. But I want to say to him, you have to do the outreach. You've hurled out the insults. Now figure out how to reel them back in. And that was a start last night that you, Brad, appropriately pointed out, Brad.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate you calling. 515-244-0077. That's the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the air. Sam Clovis, who I really like. I just think Sam's a good person. He was in studio the other day, and he said that he's watching Trump recognize that he needs a different kind of people around him. And Clovis said that, think about Donald Trump. That's always what he's been famous for. He surrounds himself with people that are better than he at certain jobs, certain responsibilities, and that's how he's been so successful. So I think we're going to see a VP, we're going to see a Secretary of Defense, we're going to see some of these positions starting to float around, and we're going to recognize that Trump knows how to hire good people.
Well, I hope that's right. And Sam Clovis is a good friend.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And you bet. And he served our country for a good long time in the Air Force, and he's led in that capacity, flew F-16s,
Yep.
and so I think a lot of Sam and his observations I'm gonna suggest are pretty good. We'll see who Trump puts around him, and when we looked at his campaign that he set up, he put good people in place here in Iowa. Sam's one of them, and
that's right.
Then as he moved on, it seemed like his campaign, he wasn't keeping up with the personnel as his campaign grew. He was having trouble keeping up with that, and yet he always knew how to put on a show. He's always a showman. And then towards the tail end of this thing, he woke up to the delegates component of the campaign and started to put people to work there. And that might be one of the reasons why Ted Cruz decided to suspend the campaign, because he could see that there was an effort to recruit delegates out of the Trump campaign that was going to actually take a toll on the way to Cleveland as well.
Well, and I think the comments that Frank talked about earlier in his acceptance last night, there's a maturity there. There's a political maturity there. And as you said, I think we're beginning to see him play politics a little bit, to say nice things to people he doesn't necessarily like.
Well, this government, it doesn't run in a way that Donald Trump runs anything.
Right.
And people say, run the government like a business. And I've said that myself. But once I look at it, what it really is like, a business has a different incentive. Let's get to where we can get profit. If we all sit around this table and make a deal, sign off on a contract, we want to get that done and get to work so we can start to put some money in the bank. But politics is the reverse, almost the perverse incentive. You do things when things get down to where your political liability gets too great. And then that's what happens often.
All right, Frank, last comment about Trump, and then I want to move on.
I want to talk about our political enemy, our foe, Hillary. What's the odds she gets a recommendation from the FBI to indict? What's the odds the Department of Justice will act on it? Whether Obama gives her a pardon? I mean, what's your thoughts in general about Hillary's situation, and will she run at all?
A lot of this is in the mind of James Comey right now, our FBI director. I think he is a stellar individual. I've watched James Comey. I know him to a degree. He's testified before my committee a number of times, and I think he's an honorable individual. He's put up 3 trial balloons that I can think of against this administration, and I think part of it is to see how the administration will react. One of them, the last one, was the statement that he would be the one who would depose Hillary Clinton. Well, and then after that, it was, we don't necessarily have to have this done before the convention. We can't be guided by a schedule of a convention. We are law, after all. So there are actually 4 trial balloons going on. If Comey comes out with this and calls for an indictment, that would be a request of the Justice Department. That's Loretta Lynch. And the people that work with her tell me that she is also an honorable individual. Now, I'm getting into a political arena here that I usually don't think that's the case, but that's the feedback that I'm getting. And so whether it happens or not, it's probably, the odds are less than 50-50 that it does. I'm going to suggest it's about 40-60 that Comey will ask for the indictment. And if that happens and he actually gets it, I think that's maybe 35-65 that he'd actually get it. But there's a lot of politics that would be part of this. And then if Hillary is not indicted, how does the president then not come out and pardon General Petraeus?
Right.
General Petraeus' small little piece of information that went to someone who also had classified clearance, they just didn't speak about that in the right room.
Yeah.
So it is very complex, and I think that there's a risk that Obama would pardon Hillary Clinton. And if he does pardon her, and if then, is she a viable candidate any longer, or did that poke so many big holes in her boat that it just sinks, and then does Joe Biden come off the wings? Right. I think Joe Biden is about a 1 in 3 shot coming off the wings right now myself.
Really? So maybe this whole pie hasn't been stirred up enough yet.
I think it hasn't.
Congressman Steve
never seen
King
this
is here.
Before. Nothing like it.
So tell me, you're the guy who's going up against you in the primary, Bertrand. He's got a television ad out there, and he's telling reporters something about you and Highway 20. And I don't understand it, so I thought I'd go straight to the horse and ask you.
Well, I know that he's made a statement that he will be known as the guy who finished Highway 20. And I don't know how he can make that claim, but Highway 20, 4-lane Highway 20, that I've worked on for a long time, is 301 miles long from Dubuque to Sioux City. And we've been building that along the way, earmarking a little money here and there, leveraging here and there, going to meetings with the DOT Commission and working with the 4-lane Highway 20 Association. We are within 40 miles of being done, and that 40 miles is under construction right now from west of 71 on into Mobile, and then that's already 4-lane on into Sioux City. And so to say Steve King couldn't get the highway done, no, it's scheduled to be finished in 2018. And I will just tell you that the ribbon will be cut before Governor Branstad, if he decides not to run again, leaves office.
Governor Branstad hasn't made that announcement yet, whether he's going to run again or not. His health seems to be either getting better or not getting worse. He seems to be doing well.
Vigorous.
If there isn't a Governor Branstad another term, and he's not the Republican candidate, Who do you think should be?
Ooh, that's a tough question, Mac.
I don't ask easy ones, sir.
No, well, I'm ready for an easy one. There's some good people out there, and they're maneuvering right now. And in case that Governor Branstad decides to step down, I would want to allow them the room to position themselves rather than try to move somebody in place. But I'm confident that they're going to be friends, and it's going to be a tough time going forward if we have to decide.
Hey, listen, Grasshopper, did you catch the lesson here? You can ask him the tough question, and he still isn't going to answer.
Well, the tough one was, would you consider it?
At this point, I haven't had the incentive to run for governor. I spent 6 years in the Iowa Senate. I got steeped in state policy.
Yeah.
When I went there, I thought I was more interested in federal policy. I love the state policy. It was my life. I lived it day and night. But when I was elected to Congress, my shift went the other way, and it went to the national policies. And so now I'm looking at this, and this job in this 4th congressional district. My opponent would say, well, I'm looking outside the borders of the 4th district, and you should really just have it be local and dealing with inside the boundaries. That's what this Highway 20 ad is about.
Yeah.
Well, it is a United States Congressman as a title of the job, and that means it's for the whole United States of America, but it's the voice of Iowans to Washington, D.C., and the best thing that we can do, I could come back home and run around inside the district and just be on a constant get reelected campaign mode, be an easy and a happy life, but it wouldn't be carrying our values to the rest of the country. We've got to convince the rest of the country that we get it right here, and that's what this is about. And there's a national security component of this, the foreign policy component, the national economic piece of this thing, the massive welfare out there that's essentially bribing people not to work. We've got 102 million Americans of working age not in the workforce.
1/3.
Big questions out there and how to address them, and you get them done best when you have a president on your side.
4th District Congressman Steve King is in our studio today. You're welcome to call in and ask a question if you want. 515-244-007. We also have the Service Legends Truth text line. So here's a question. I don't know how old you are. Can you tell me?
I'm 66.
Okay, you've got 3 boys.
Yes.
I'm assuming you've got some grandkids in there.
7 wonderful. And 3 wonderful daughters-in-law, too.
Okay, when are you going to just say, I've done what I can do for my state and my country, and before I get too old and can't work on the farm anymore or can't help my grandkids, I'm going to step down?
Well, to think about that is that I love my work, and I'm engaged in it, and it challenges me every day. And I've told people that I will burn the candle at both ends until I run out of wax, and then I'll know, and the time will be to come home. Right now, there's a lot of wax in my candle, and who knows when it runs out. Chuck Grassley has a lot of wax in his candle, and he's burning it from both ends, and he gets up and jogs in the morning yet.
Well, and
I'm not doing that.
It is kind of interesting that you and I are now in that age bracket that when we were 20 and 30, we'd say, man, that's old. Those guys are old. Just everybody, they should retire. Life has changed. I'm sure you don't feel like your grandfather did when he was 67, and I don't feel like mine. So we do have we have life within us that can go for a long time, and if you're passionate about your work, and as you say, you got enough wax in the candle, why not?
And on top of that, Mac, because the transportation is okay coming out of Iowa and into D.C. and back, I come back nearly every weekend, and our 3 sons and their families all live within 10 miles of our house.
Oh, good.
We can still go to church together. We can go back for brunch, and one of my daughter-in-laws will feed me a wonderful home-cooked meal, and I get my grandkids to pile all over the top of me.
Yeah.
Or when we're at our house and they spill out onto the deck, and then they go fight over the swing on the maple tree in front, and when Megan sets the timer so they have to take turns, I know everything's right with the world.
Yeah. I want to thank you.
You just quickly, I love Charles Grassley, but in the game of pool, you got to constantly be setting up your next shot. I want somebody to be groomed for when Grassley does step aside.
Well, I think it's his grandson.
I hope so.
I mean, he's in the house right now, the Iowa House.
A good young man, too.
Yeah.
I like the principles that he stands on. I think a lot of Patrick Grassley.
I've interviewed him. All right.
Yeah.
I want to thank you. I know that your schedule's a little goofed up this afternoon, and you still have time for us. I want to thank you for your time here. Thank Andrea. Thank your son, Jeff. And as always, you're welcome in Mac's World anytime.
Looking forward to coming back, Mac. I've enjoyed this. It went by too fast for me.
Yeah, I really love you, brother, and I thanks all you do.
You too. Thank you.
You bet. All right, Pastor Todd Stiles is coming up. He is the pastor of the missionary that was murdered in Jamaica. We've got more details, more information, and obviously more prayers. Coming up next, live here in Mac's World.
I didn't.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, 4:38, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, 4th day of May. And what? Come on, dude. If you're on webcast, you just saw Chris Roloff dance in the background. All right, let's get down to some serious business. Pastor Todd Stiles is here from First Family Church in Ankeny. You probably heard the news late Saturday night or Sunday that Randy Hensel, a missionary in Jamaica, had been murdered. And he was a member of Pastor Todd's church. His wife, Sarah, and 5 kids, 2 of them married, live in Ankeny, Iowa, and attend that church regularly. How did you get the news?
Well, the director of their mission agency, it's called Teams for Medical Missions, called me Saturday evening. I was at home, and when you get a call later in the evening from someone you never hear from much, you just figured this is not going to be good news. And so I answered, and we chatted, and he said, I need to call you as her pastor, and, well, how do we want to relay this? And I just said, I got to go over there. I just got to tell her, and I got to tell her soon, because in my mind, the first thing that came to my mind, Mac, was this. The last thing I'd want for Sarah and those kids is to find this news out on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Or something that someone just may put from Jamaica, and who knows if it happened, but my heart just began to really pound for that family and for Sarah, that, I want them to hear it. There's no good way to hear that, but I want them to hear from someone that loves them. And so I told John Heater, he's their director, I said, I'm on my way, I'll call you when I'm done. That's kind of what began.
So you had to break the news to Sarah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get dramatic here, but you ring the doorbell. Who answers the door?
Well, Sarah was in the kitchen working on some projects, and I don't want to make this about me, Mac.
I'm not. I mean,
but Sarah's grief is far. I was there, but going over there, just prayed, and your heart's pounding. Your heart hurts for that family already, and so she's in the kitchen doing some work, putting some backsplash up. They've got a graduation party coming in about 2 weeks. Some kids are there, and I told our church Sunday morning, you know what you've got to say, and you just feel very pretentious, but you don't mean to be, and you're not, but you're about to relay information that's going to change everything about their life forever.
Yeah.
And so, hey, Todd, come on in. And I said, hey, Sarah. And, she says, how you doing? And you say, I'm doing okay, because you just don't want to.
Yeah.
You have to say that. But inside, you're not doing okay. And so I just asked her if we could chat for a few minutes with the kids, and she said, sure. And I think at that point,
with the kids?
No, without the kids. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I said, can we talk for a few minutes alone? And she said, sure. And I think at that point, she probably knew something was up. And then the Lord was gracious, the Holy Spirit powerful. And, Sarah has a deep, deep faith. She's a godly woman.
Oh, yeah. She's been stellar in the news and from you guys. And she was at church Sunday morning, right?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't know that I'd even recommend that. I mean, no pastor would say never come to church.
Yeah.
But we preempted everything at our service, and we told our Bondurant campus and the Ankeny campus, this is what we'll do. And so we just told our people humbly the tragic news. We spent time with an open mic for prayer. We read scripture, and we just kind of grieved together and talked about what do we do now to help this family take the next several steps. And so it's just Sarah, I'm just really proud of her and her family. Yeah. She's been a trooper and a great witness of God's power in very difficult times.
How old is the youngest?
I believe their son, TJ, is in the 9th grade.
So
14,
they're
I believe.
Adult enough and can understand. And all right, has Randy been returned to Iowa yet?
No.
Okay. At some point, there will be some type of funeral service.
There is a memorial service this coming Monday, 6:30 at Grace Church.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I saw that.
And so that'll be at 6:30. Following that, there will be a sharing reception. So we want to encourage folks to come by and not only leave notes of memories, but be able to share verbally. So that'll all start at 6:30. After the memorial service, there'll be some light snacks in that sharing reception as well. But that's kind of where all that will start. When Randy's body gets back, what the family will do, we don't know yet, and they'll make those decisions later.
Todd Stiles is here, pastor at First Family Church in Ankeny, the church that sponsors Randy Hensel. I'm sorry, Hentzel. He was brutally murdered in Jamaica over the weekend, as he's been a missionary there for how long?
They left for Jamaica in 2008, came back for a short stint, went back with this current organization in 2011, I think it is.
Okay.
Pastor Todd, what was the nature of the work? I don't know too much about what he did. What was the nature of his work in Jamaica?
So Teams for Medical Missions works with building houses, providing medical care, organizing Bible clubs, but Randy began the Bible Training Center of Jamaica. And so he was actually, more than anything, actually training national pastors, getting guys ready to plant churches. And that's one of the reasons we were just so behind him. He actually began that from scratch. And just so you guys will know, that was Randy's personality. He not only was a member of our church, Mac, but Randy helped start our church. He was one of the beginning founding members. He was actually on our part-time staff at the very beginning. He was our first small groups pastor. He got our small groups going. Randy was just entrepreneurial for the Lord. And so he never saw a risk that was too great, because he felt if it would benefit the body, if it would help someone else, I'll take the risk. He's just a tremendously gifted man who knew a lot about a lot of stuff and served the Lord with great energy.
Did Sarah homeschool some of these kids, or were they in government school?
They were in Ankeny school system.
Okay. And
now, she did homeschool when they were in Jamaica, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure about all that. But when they arrived back, they entered the Ankeny school system. And
okay. Frank?
Well, much like Abel and the martyrs all through history, do you see Randy as a martyr? And obviously he died a conqueror. He'll be hailed in heaven as a conqueror if he died as a martyr, dying for your faith, dying for Christ.
And I can't speak to the technical definition of, did Randy die for his faith? Was that an attack because of his beliefs? I don't know that. I will say this: Randy shed his blood and gave his life in the country where he was a witness and a church planter. And the result of that could be that God will use that to fertilize the ground in Jamaica for even more Christian and gospel expansion. For that, we would say, as hard as it is to say this, though death is at work in us, what 2 Corinthians 4, it is life in you.
Right.
That's what Paul said. So, I mean, Randy would embrace that text. He lived that out. So I'm not afraid of the word martyr. It seems like that actually means if you're murdered for your faith. I don't know that was the motive of this, but he did shed his blood in that country.
He at least died in the cause of Christ.
He did. He died in his service. And so I know God's going to use this. I just don't know how yet.
Now, the KCCI is reporting, and I guess it's a national report now, but they broke the news early this morning that 3 people have been arrested in Jamaica for Randy's death, and then there's another missionary unrelated to your church that was also found dead, with 500 yards away from each other or something?
I don't know the distance. He and Randy were really good friends. They worked together. Harold Nichols. They were both killed in that same incident.
And we don't know a motive yet?
I have not been told of any motive, no.
Okay.
I've not read of anyone either. I would say that there has been some reports from Jamaica police that they've not arrested anyone. So just be aware. I've seen.
Oh, really?
I've seen conflicting reports.
Okay.
So I'm not the authority, except to say that some are reporting that that's actually not true, and some are reporting that that's what Jamaica said. So I don't know who to believe on that one. Okay.
All right. Let me check some. Let me check some latest news while we go into this next break, and we can kind of get an idea on that, because there are obviously some people who will report things that are not necessarily the truth, and then put them on a homepage for a local TV station.
And like I said, I may be wrong about that. Just double check's all I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I will.
Pastor Todd, could I ask you about the spiritual state of Jamaica, to your knowledge? I know you're not the missionary over there, but in terms of what reports you had gotten, was the gospel work that he was doing, the church planting, that kind of stuff, was it being well received in Jamaica? And also maybe speak to the spiritual condition of Jamaica. I
wouldn't know a ton about the spiritual condition or even stats that relate to that. I do know they probably consider themselves a friendly nation to Christianity. Rastafarianism, I think, is the name of the primary religion there. It's not Christian, but it's the one that they kind of hold to as Jamaicans. But the church planting movement, Randy's training of national pastors was going very well. There's a lack of real biblical literacy there. So he was training men in good theology, and that was having good fruit in the areas he was in. Churches were becoming more healthy. People were growing, being discipled. That's always a good sign. So I can't speak to the country as a whole. I know Randy's work was very fruitful and was showing signs of really good health.
All right, we're going to take our break. We'll come back with more from Todd Stiles, pastor at First Family in Ankeny, where Randy Hensel, the missionary who was killed in Jamaica, is from.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So Join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, 10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Hank, the Bible Answer Man at 1-888-ASK-HANK. It's a nationwide, worldwide program, and you're certainly welcome to call. Do not wait much longer to call in because they stack the calls. And he can only take, 9, maybe 10 calls an hour based on the kind of question. So if you want to get in, 1-888-ASK-HANK. My guest is Pastor Todd Stiles, senior pastor at First Family Church in Ankeny. It is the church that sponsored, is that the right term?
Yeah, we sent out the Hensels to Jamaica. They ran our church and then went to Jamaica, and we supported them.
Randy and Sarah Hensel. Randy was found murdered last Saturday in Jamaica, along with another gentleman, not from Iowa, but still another missionary that he was working with. I hope this is the right time to say this, but who wants to go to Jamaica? Right? I mean, we know where Randy is. Mm-hmm. Randy's with the Lord. He's having a ball up there. Who knows what they're doing up there, So we need somebody who wants to step up, be trained properly, and go over to Jamaica. Tell me if somebody said, I want to take Randy's place, what do you look for in a potential missionary?
Well, first of all, that'd be a great answer to prayer. Within the DNA of our church, we hope there's a sending element. There's just always an outreach-focused aspect. What we look for, I think, first of all, would be someone with a heart for church planting, which is actually the result of making disciples. And so someone has to have the ability and the heart, the skill, and the spiritual empowerment to take someone who is a lost person, witness to them, share the gospel clearly, succinctly, and accurately, see them come to Christ, and then develop them into a mature believer. That's what pastors do. And so we would look for that skill. It's also a gift, a spiritual power, spiritual ability by the Spirit. So I think those are things we're looking for: right theology, right heart for people, shepherding, bent.
Bent.
Like you lean towards certain things. Like, you're patient.
Whoops.
Shoot,
I'm gone. I was going to put my name in, but patient. Yeah. I'm not patient.
Well, flexible, spontaneous. And Randy was every one of these. He was just great with people. There are people in our church today who would say, Randy is the person who invited me X number of years ago.
Wow.
Randy got me into the small group. There's a guy in our church who's now a Christian, and he visited our church as an unbeliever. He heard about it, and he came. This is years ago, and Randy first met him. And then in the course of the conversation, he said, this visitor said, well, I heard you had small groups, and I would never go to a small group unless you brought it to my house. Well, that's all Randy needed the next week. He got his small group, knocked on the door. That man answered, and he says, what are you doing here? And he said, I brought my small group to your house. So the guy had to let him in, and within a matter of months, the man became a Christian.
That's awesome.
And that's Randy Hensel. He loved Jesus, and he loved people.
That's awesome. Now, silly question I have to ask it. Do people in Jamaica speak English?
Some do. There's kind of a broken form, and it's called something else, and I don't know those details, Matt.
But the missionary that goes down there would have to understand both languages.
I would say more appropriately, he understood the culture and spoke English, and there's enough of them that understand English that it works.
All right.
We visited there and saw some of their work just for a little bit, and we were able to get along in the area with knowing English. We could communicate okay.
Okay. Well, I just want to right now, I want to nominate Frank to go down to Jamaica.
Go to Jamaica.
Yeah, and be a missionary. And Frank, you in fact go now.
Only if I can have dreadlocks.
Right, you can.
Now, Haiti, I understand there's a certain culture of voodoo, witchcraft, etc. in Haiti. Is there something similar like that in Jamaica, to your knowledge? Or
I think there is, and I think it's kind of under the umbrella of this Rastafarianism. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, I believe you are. We had a young lady in here a couple of weeks ago that Mac met cleaning her car out, and she mentioned the Rastafarian thing, and I believe she was all up in Bob Marley. But above and beyond that, I was just, anywhere there's a culture of ignorance and superstition and whatever, and you bring light into that as a Christian, you're going to get blowback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there is that element there. That's about all I would know right now. Randy had his hands around that really well, and Sarah too. They just were very knowledgeable about the culture and did real well living there and ministering.
So if someone listening to this program, and Jill King just reminded me, you have to feel called. You have to feel called to want to do this. They come to you and they say, I don't know what's going on, Todd, but I'm getting this nudge, and I think I'm supposed to continue Randy's work. Will you be finding someone else to fill his position? Is that your church's responsibility?
Well, we would definitely work in partnership with Teams for Medical Missions.
Okay.
And if someone were to arise and say they sense the Holy Spirit calling them that way, which is what Acts 13 kind of displays for us, is that God calls them and the church recognizes them.
Okay.
And so Jill's right in that there's a call. I wasn't trying to avoid that in my answer. I was speaking more from the human angle. But if that were to happen, we'd work with teams, and then we would work with that person and say, okay, is this a calling that we can recognize, and is it one that's confirmed by God's people? So there's a process there, but sure, if God raised that person up, we would love to continue the work there of the Bible Training Center. We would be really supportive of that. But we're not the only ones to make that call.
Okay.
If it's with Teams for Medical Missions, they're part of the process as well.
And you said the Bible Training Center. Is that like a school?
It was a 3-year school. For those who wanted to be church planters and to be better pastors.
And that school is with you here in Ankeny?
No, that's something Randy started. It would
Jamaica?
Be, yes, and it would be more under the umbrella of Teams for Medical Missions.
Okay.
As well as there's another organization, their name slips my mind, but they were the ones who provided all the curriculum.
Okay. Pastor Todd Stiles is my guest, pastor at First Family in Ankeny, where the deceased, the murdered missionary, the warrior for Christ was killed last weekend. I did check it out. KCCI may have said, well, I know they said something earlier, but that's been taken off their Facebook. So I think maybe you're correct that the arrest of those 3 people maybe has not been confirmed yet.
Okay.
They did release it this morning about 10:30, and now it's been taken off of their Facebook, so they may have gotten more information.
Is there ever a point when the culture comes apart so much that you'd suggest or pull your missionaries out of an area?
I've not experienced that. I'm sure there is a time when that's needed. Can I give you an opinion, though?
Yeah, sure.
If I were in a situation and I knew that, my opinion based on the Bible's teaching is this, that protect the sheep and send them to flee or to more safety, which is what Acts chapter 8 is. But those who are responsible for the flock should stay and face the persecution. You notice in Acts 8, the apostles never left Jerusalem. You notice that? Right. It was the church that scattered, and that's how God got the gospel to the Gentiles and the rest of the pagan world, but it was the apostles who stayed. And I think that's what courageous shepherds do, not hirelings. They stay, and they help the sheep stay protected. But as a pastor, I would then probably stay in that situation and be willing to lay my life down. But I would want our sheep to be protected so that the gospel could go further. Because if there's 100 of you, it's better if 100 find safety and keep the mission.
Right.
Than for 100 to get killed for sake of one man. That's not what we're after.
Yeah.
We should be willing to lay our lives down just as the chief shepherd has. And Randy did exactly that, didn't he?
Yeah.
What a godly man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of my Bible studies has just started Acts, and we're in Acts 3. And you begin to get the heaviness when Peter walked back into the temple and healed that man outside and declared, guess what? He did what he said. He's risen. And now they have the Holy Spirit, and everybody knows Acts. All right. Thank you for
Thanks,
being
Mac.
here.
It's always good coming on your show.
Yeah, sorry the time was constrained.
Oh, we're good, man. We're good.
All right. Tomorrow, boy, we got a great show for you. And we'll talk about it tomorrow, live here on The Truth. I have no idea.